set. Everyone please rise for the pledge and stay for a short moment of silence. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence for our first responders and our deployed military. Thank you. We just had and I apologize for making you wait in the hall, I hated that, but we just had a short executive session on a potential real estate contract, which we'll be discussing at next meeting because it's not on tonight's agenda. Public comment on agenda items. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to announce Erica Rierick is attending by phone tonight.
I was hoping I wouldn't have to come up, but you guys don't want to disclose what's happening during your executive sessions. My name is Devin Taylor. To those who know me, I am a pro se litigant pursuing civil rights violations against this borough. Over the last month, they have been added to my case against the 4 individuals who were originally in the case. My amended complaint was ordered, approved by the Middle District of Harrisburg, and the 8 new defendants are as follows: New Freedom Borough, Walter Tilley, David Jones, Stockton Leader, Andrew Schaefer, Southern Regional Police Department, Chief James Boddington, and Sergeant Daniel Teague. If you continue to omit what you are doing behind closed doors, I will continue to pursue additional charges against you, to include citizens arrests, which I can do for your felonies or misdemeanors that you are committing by omitting information or conversations that are going to the courts and other pertinent business that's happening behind closed doors. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just so the citizens know, the responsibility of the borough is to announce what the purposes of the executive session was, which we did. It's a real estate contract, and
Objection.
And we are going to
New Freedom Borough signed Andrew Rongaus as legal counsel through executive session. Please disclose what you did during executive session.
that we did not.
Okay.
I mean, we did not do that.
Okay. So who did it? The administrator just did it behind your back and gave approval. You guys aren't discussing the lawsuit in-house at all?
No.
Okay. The people have no right to know that you guys are being sued, your manager's being sued, your attorney's being sued, our police department's being sued, and you guys all fucking know it.
Calm down, calm down. There's no reason to talk like that.
First Amendment. We can keep going. Arrest me. Stop lying to your constituents.
Sorry. Is there any other public comment for agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. We have a visitor presentation from Northern Central Railroad.
Hi. My name is Ashley Zimmerman. I'm the Executive Director, and I also want to introduce our Board Chair, Jody Anderson-Leidy. Okay, so Northern Central Railway is a 501c educational nonprofit. Our mission is to be an economic engine for York County by providing educational, entertaining rail excursions on a tourist rail line. Since 2013, we have brought 200,000 visitors to New Freedom, making a $3.5 million impact to York County. In 2023 and in 24, 55% of our visitors came from outside of York County, and we've also worked with over 74 local businesses to conduct our everyday business from catering to truck maintenance. As you can imagine, it is not cheap to run a railroad. It is very capital intensive. There is also a mandated federal safety requirement as well, mandated by the FRA, Federal Railroad Administration. NCR leases our track from the Parks Department for $1, which is a great deal, right? But NCR is responsible for the track maintenance, which ranges anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million every year, depending on the projects that we need to do and also the funding that's available to the organization through grants. Then we have our train maintenance, which is usually around $400,000. And we have 3 of them, by the way, so that adds up very quickly. NCR does not own our engine house. It is leased by a local business owner as well. NCR also carries an initial startup debt that's around $1 million from the building of our beloved steam engine number 17, which has put all of us on the map here in beautiful New Freedom. Those are just a few of our ongoing expenses. And while we are running a business that brings in 20,000 people annually, we are a nonprofit. And what makes us unique compared to a lot of nonprofits is we do have a lot of high capital expenses. The reason I'm explaining that to you is because I don't know if a lot of you are aware of that. A little bit of behind the curtains here at NCR. In 2013, the New Freedom Borough Council created a new tax called the amusement tax. It is a 5% on any form of entertainment event that lasts longer than 7 days. This tax only impacts NCR, as many of you are aware. I just want to point out as well that the carnival only lasts 6 days. Since 2013, NCR has paid the borough $233,000. In 2022, the borough was kind enough to donate back 1/3 of the amusement tax. NCR used those funds to support marketing and operation efforts to lower the cost of the New Freedom Fest. The borough was noted as a sponsor. We are very grateful for that. In 2023, NCR received 50% of the amusement tax back, and those funds were to support the Smoke on the Rail event, and we provided discounted tickets. NCR also donated our Game of Chance license and was a great supporter of the Smoke on the Rail event, which was very successful. Good job, Andy. In 2024, the council then returned back to donating only 1/3 of the amusement tax. Again, the funds were used to support New Freedom Fest and Smoke on the Rails. Altogether, it was around $33,000 that have been donated back to the organization. NCR feels that we have been a very strong and supportive partner to the borough and community and businesses at large. 2024 was a particularly challenging year for NCR. I joked around that it was a one-person dodgeball game, is what it felt like. Our beloved steam engine number 17 experienced many mechanical issues. It was decided to move our federal inspection up 3 years in our timeline. This is a $400,000 project. As most of you know, we were closed for the entire month of December. It was closed because our diesel engine had a compressor that shut down, and it took about 6 weeks for it to be repaired. This was completely unexpected, and we actually had to buy another engine, again, something we were not prepared to do. A lot of the businesses came to us and were impacted. One of those businesses is here today and is willing to share his experience on how it impacted his business as well. Then, in November, the bridge in Seven Valley was struck by a tractor-trailer truck. Just kept coming and coming and coming. So that ended up closing the Howard Tunnel excursion for us for 9 months. But I'm happy to report that it's open, and we will be back in July 1st, back to our bike aboard excursion, which is a partnership we have with the Chilltowns business and the Parks Department. All of these tragedies hit our purse strings very hard, It also impacted our revenue opportunities as well, but our organization still stayed on track, of course. With that being said, NCR would officially like to make the request to the borough that the 2025 amusement tax, we would like to see 100% of it be donated back to the organization due to the challenges that we had in 2024. We are beyond grateful from the support of the borough, and we hope to continue to partner with the borough and the community at large. So, thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Or Rich from Vortex is here to support us as well.
I have a question, if you would let me, ma'am, for you. What other trees have you shook in attempts to alleviate your financial struggles?
So that's a great question. So as an educational nonprofit, we have, we call it our third-party support. So we do several fundraisers every single year. Cowboy Weekend's one of them. So we bring in over 1,000 people into the community. So we generate about $40,000 a year for that event. We also bring in, last year we raised about $1 million in grants that we do. And then we also have our boards.
And you're coming to my town asking for your money back, another handout.
Well, we do bring a lot of money into the community and the businesses. The businesses pay taxes.
Have you asked any other local municipalities for assistance in these joint municipal adventures that you take New Freedom residents on and other people?
There's no other municipality
I'm
that
sorry.
charges us an amusement tax.
Let's go back to see if council has any questions before we address the public.
Does the
Council have any questions?
No, I think it was a very good question. Do you receive any funds from other municipalities, and how much?
Well, let me preface that, not to cut you off, but let me preface that no other municipality charges them a tax for using their service.
They don't experience NCR like we do.
We are, it's called the amusement tax.
That tax is, the person, goes to the person purchasing the ticket. It doesn't have anything to do with their profit.
Because they put that on the ticket.
Well, they have to. They add it to the ticket. So the person that buys the ticket is making the $1.50 payment.
Mr. Solicitor, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is basically, it's the same kind of a tax that you would pay if you went and rented a motel room, and there's a city tax added to it. It's just a pass-through. So you collect the tax, but it actually comes from the consumers that are buying the tickets.
Correct.
If we quit charging you the tax would you then lower the ticket price?
We would.
So you actually wouldn't be getting the money anyway if you lowered the
And that would
ticket.
be fine as well.
Okay.
Why would you lower the ticket price?
Why would we lower the ticket
Yeah.
price?
Just curious.
Well, we could if we didn't have the tax then at all.
But that's not affecting your bottom line. The
I
tax is not.
think it's something that we'd have to take a look at and maybe run some calculations and see what impact we think a lower ticket price would have on ticket sales. But at this point, getting the tax back, which is actually money in our coffers, would be more helpful at this point.
I know you've talked about, wait a minute, let me finish, Erica, I'm sorry. You have a lot of expense in running NCR. We have a lot of expense in the town because you have NCR. We deal with the complaints of the whistles, we deal with the roads. Don't interrupt me, please. I have to.
Okay, all right, let's have one person at a time, please.
Unbelievable.
Yes, it is. So we have expenses also that we're gonna have to entail. We're eventually, soon, gonna have to repave municipal parking lot, which a lot of your folks are using because there is no parking down by the train station. I think 100% is asking an exorbitant amount of money that we can utilize to refresh the town for us and for you. We put in new crosswalks, to make it easily accessible. That was a lot of money for us to put those crosswalks in, and that supports you. But that's, I guess, all.
No, that was grant money. That didn't
Not
cost.
all of it.
No?
So, Erica, you had a question?
Not necessarily a question, just a comment that it was stated that, 20,000 people or more come into our community annually, and that 55% or more of those people are not even in our county. And the money that will be repaid back to them in a refund will come from our general fund. Taxes were raised here recently on people, and those 20,000 people that are coming in are using our infrastructure. They're using, our facilities. They're using items within our community that need to be maintained. So to not look at raising a surcharge, if they're short and they're coming up shorthanded, to turn to us to come back, 55% of these people aren't even in our county. There should be a surcharge on the tickets that would, come from the people that are actually riding the train, not the overwhelming majority of people that don't even ride the train yearly, that live in New Freedom. Asking them to cough that up is wrong, what I believe.
So the businesses pay a tax to the county or the borough, correct? And the businesses are here because tourists are coming here. So do you think there would be as many businesses here if the train wasn't here?
Yes.
We can find out.
Rich, would you be here if the train wasn't here?
Of course he would. He's a subsidiary of Burkentine. They gave him prime real estate.
Rich is here. Maybe he can answer for himself.
I would love the opportunity to debate Rich.
He's the business owner.
That's fine.
Why would
Have
you
you seen the
debate
rest?
the
Have you seen the
person
rest of
that's
his
actually...
comments?
Is it a
Sir,
debate?
you're out of order.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
This
are.
is public discussion and open floor. You.
This is not an open forum,
Okay.
sir.
First off, I'll speak. I have no intention of engaging any other public person here. It's not how this works. So I'll speak. I can tell you that we put an investment into this town. We lease it just like any other business. There's many businesses. There's Pisano's, there's Seven Sports Bar, there's Monkey's Ice Cream. You have 2 new pastry shops opening up in the town. And a lot of it is driven by the area that New Freedom is a destination point for a lot of people. So would I be here? Honestly, I'd have to say probably. But one of the main driving forces of why we picked this location and spent the money was because of the fact that this was a destination point. People come to New Freedom for other reasons than just to come eat in our restaurant. And so for that very fact, that's why we came and paid a premium for where we are and the investment that we made in this town. And we made a significant investment in this town. We probably, well over $1 million. And that I can tell you quite honestly, when the train was down last summer, we saw a precipitous drop in our customer base coming in. It definitely made a difference. So
Sure.
what the real question is the survival of businesses. Will the businesses survive if the train wasn't here? Nobody can answer that here tonight. There's no telling. But I can tell you that it put a real strain on the business communities, the businesses that are trying to grow now and bring life back to New Freedom. That's why we came here. That's why we enjoyed it. And we are a destination point. Not just the train, bicycle, NCR trail. A lot of people come up in this area. That's why we picked it. But we really were amazed at how much the train impacted our business, if that's available.
Thank you. That's a good comment. I think probably what we should do is put this on the agenda for next month to discuss it in detail as far as what the borough cannot do. And it'll give us 30 days to think about it. And of course, we'll take public comment next month as well.
Thank you.
Sir?
Just in closing, and to maybe just, further discuss options or solutions in this, as what the borough can and can't do. I would also encourage us to look back at our ordinances and our governance here and recognize that we have the ability as the borough to audit any businesses in our borough. And I think that because the NCR continues to come and prove that they can't manage their own funds, that the borough should audit them.
Thank you for your suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Could I make a suggestion that that our solicitor take a look into the legality of rebating any tax to a nonprofit? I've kind of gotten a little bit of
I think
from PSAB that it's really not proper to rebate a tax to a nonprofit. We don't rebate anything to the Lions. We don't rebate anything to the Methodist Church. We don't rebate anything to any other. Of course, they're not paying other than, you know.
Well then, I think that's not a bad idea. Mr. Tilley, could you do two things, please? Could you check, number one, if it is permissible for a borough to rebate tax money back to a nonprofit?
Yes.
And the second item, can you check to see if it is permissible for a borough to target one particular company out of all the companies in the borough to apply a tax to?
Specialty tax is a thing, yes, sir.
Sorry?
Specialty tax is a thing, yes, sir.
Yeah, specialty taxes, but it only applies to one, and it was specifically written in such language that it...
We discussed it last year when the other face of their agency and books came here.
I'm sorry?
I said we discussed this last year when the other face of their books and agency came here. I appreciate you changing the face. You should probably look at your books recognizing that that man touched it.
I have no idea what you said. Yeah.
I was talking to the NCR.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, if you just...
I can do this.
I appreciate it. Approval of minutes for the regular meeting held May 12th. I'd accept a motion.
Make a motion for the approval of the minutes for New Freedom Borough Council meeting of May 12, 2025.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion, changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote as aye. Approval of the treasurer's report dated May of 25. I would accept a motion.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for May of 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions?
I have a question on the community center fund monthly expenses.
What page?
Page.
It's showing up 22 on my computer, but it's added extra pages, so I'm not sure. It should be like the second to the last page.
It's 22, yep.
Okay. Just on that Cintas, $1,600, was that actually for cleaning supplies, or was that mismarked and that was actually the cleaning?
No, and that actually was 2 months, so, but that's also all the paper products, cleaning of all the rugs, all soaps, all hand sanitizers, air fresheners. I feel like I'm missing something, but yeah, that actually was 2 months' work on that bill.
Is Cintas's fees going up?
I know that Cintas had increases, but we are part of a government purchasing agreement with Cintas, so those rates are locked in.
How
When
long?
were they locked in till? I mean, just offhand, do you know?
I don't know offhand, but it's pretty similar to a CoStar's arrangement. So those contracts are submitted and that price is pretty much guaranteed. I'd have to check on the expiration date of that, but I believe when all that was set up that there was not an expiration date.
Okay, thank you.
But I will check on that.
Yeah, there were several companies I noticed
Yeah.
that made
Yeah.
comments about how much, the percentage that they're going up.
And, yeah, I mean, that's just something we need to stay on top of and evaluate.
I have a question on the, find it, rec fund.
Page,
Yeah.
Trying to find it. My fingers don't work, I have.
16?
No, I think it really reflects at the beginning. I'm sorry, I got Charlie horse in my finger. Page 2. People's Bank, which is no longer People's Bank, but the rec fund, capital fund.
Yep.
Where did all that money go? We had $75,000 in there 2 months ago.
Yeah, and that expenditure was on the report for the playground equipment that was purchased for Joe Davis.
Okay, I wondered if that's what it was.
40,000 of that is coming back from the county, after the check was issued last week, will go back into that fund.
Oh, okay, I just thought we were 75,000, now
No.
we're less than
No,
10.
yeah,
That's-
40,000 is going back, so it'll be just shy
okay.
of
Up to 50,
50,000.
okay.
anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? My vote is aye. Stormwater Channel North Constitution,
No updates, just working to
have
close out.
anything?
I just have a question, not exactly the storm channel, but the area that was designated as, wetlands. So, in other words, that amount of feet, it doesn't matter what grows up there, it doesn't matter what happens, nothing is, I had to go back there because of vines growing over my fence, but I mean, it's a jungle back there and it's mostly weeds, but it's just, I mean,
Yeah, we're not supposed to touch it by law, is
So
it?
you're not talking about the channel itself.
no,
You're
no,
talking about
I'm
the
talking
area-
about the land right up from the apartments. In
Correct.
other words, where the bank comes up and over. The part that he designated as wetlands, right? So
Well, that
many
was-
feet?
That was up to their NPDS permit to make that designation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
That was up to DEP to make that designation,
Uh-huh,
and that was part of the land development plan, and it's privately owned and maintained.
it's privately owned and maintained? Who privately owns and maintains it?
That would be up to Burkentine and to maintain that property in accordance with whatever their NPDS permit says.
Well, it's not being maintained at all. If the
But you
weeds
don't-
are higher than my
You're not
head.
exactly sure what that permit says. That
Yeah.
might, it might be that they just have to let it grow and can't touch anything.
Yeah, our enforcement officer doesn't really appear to care about things.
Are we gonna keep going through this, or should we make a list?
Just let me know.
Because this-
I ain't even gonna leave if you make a motion this time, Ryan.
This
He
is
just, he wants you to.
I know.
All right, all right. We're gonna have one person at a time, please.
I just want to know.
Yeah, you would have to pull their permit to see what's required.
I would appreciate that because like I said, it's just, it's like a jungle. I mean, it's above my head back there in places.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't even-
if it's a wetland, as my understanding, I actually was with SYC at the time that property was gonna get donated to have a field built on it.
Right,
So we went through all this process, and what the Department of Environmental people say is you just have to leave it the way it is. So more than likely, he's not allowed to do anything with it. He just has to let it sit.
how convenient.
But we can, well, yeah, kind of, but
I
can
will pull the
we,
land development.
but we will pull the land
Let's see if
development
there's
plan
any
and check
minutes.
it, so that we will all know for sure.
I mean, I can see why you couldn't, you know, disturb the land, et cetera, but it's not healthy for all that weeds and mess to be back there. And I put my fence 2 feet from the line because of the roots of the trees, but I can't even get behind there. I mean, the weeds and everything, and someone said, well, why don't you have someone mow back there? There's no way they could. And I mean, 2 feet doesn't give them room to get back there and do it, but like I said, it's just a horrible mess back there. Now, where the pipe actually is, that's not quite as bad. But from the other neighbors on down, it's really bad.
Well, we'll see what they're required
Okay.
to do, or what at least the
I would
government
appreciate that.
told them.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Paul Smith Library. I apologize, I couldn't print this out because the internet was down, but I did make a copy of it. And what happened was, with Paul Smith, we've been going back and forth trying to get their board to meet with the library and the municipalities. Jeff Raymeyer got involved because he's Shrewsbury's attorney, and Buck had asked him if he could contact the board on behalf of the group. So we got a letter back from Jeff, and it says, gentlemen, I connected with John Seneff. I've known him for many years. John explained to me that the Board of Directors of York County Library System does not desire to have further meetings with the task force. He's calling our group the task force. He explained that the board is supportive of Robert, who is the head of the York County Library System, and what has been proposed. In that regard, both the board and Robert believe that membership libraries are not the way of the future. Accordingly, the Mason-Dixon and Paul Smith libraries have options to become branches of the York County Library System or become independent libraries. You may recall we talked about that. In becoming an independent library, you basically are cut off from all resources of the York County Library System, including their software and their card catalog and their interlibrary loan system and everything. So they have the option of becoming independent libraries. In fact, it is likely that the membership agreements will be subject to a notice of termination in the near future. That means they're basically going to cut the libraries off at the knees. John indicated that he did not think the current position expressed by Robert or the board is going to be rolled back in such a way that membership libraries will be something moving forward in the future. I am told that if they become branch libraries, the real estate would continue to be owned by them, and they would still control endowment monies. There is also a willingness for leadership of the board to meet with leaders of the library boards at Mason-Dixon and Paul Smith as well. That's it. So that's our answer back from the York County, and it looks like that their only option is going to become a member library, which means that they'll be able to control, York County Library Systems will control their hours, their employees, and there's not a whole lot that the library boards can do about it. We have not, that came through today, so we've not had an opportunity to discuss it at all to see if there's a next step. Anyway, not happy, not a good report, but that's what happened.
This is really sad. This amounts to a hostile takeover.
It
And
actually
and
is-
if they actually
Yeah.
benefited the library, people would understand, but they do not. There's, like you said, they don't even manage their own money well
No,
because they're in debt. What did you say? 2 million?
$1.3 million.
1.3 million. But, so they're gonna ruin 2 good libraries.
Are they going to expect the municipalities to continue to contribute?
Well, they're going to ask. I'm not sure that that's going to happen in the future.
Could they initiate some type of a tax to the municipalities?
I can't speak
No.
for them. I can't.
Commissioners would have to do that as a
Yeah.
county.
I'm sorry?
Commissioners would have to do that as a county.
As a county, well, they're already paying the money,
Well,
correct?
and the commission, well, I mean, they're already getting
Funded.
tax dollars. I mean,
Yeah, they're already funded.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Uh-huh.
it was Paul Smith and which?
Mason Dixon.
And Glen Rock.
I was gonna say, what's that gonna mean for Glen?
Glen Rock is already a member library. They are a member library.
They're not even
Huff Nagel
open.
is- Huh?
They're not even open.
They're not even open. but they
They're
are
not
a
happy
member
about it
library.
either.
Yeah, I think their library's got black mold, they've been condemned.
I have a comment.
Yes,
I was at the meeting when the Friends of the Library spoke in Glen Rock, and York County tells them how much money they have to raise a year, and they have to go out, and they have to raise that money.
our county library system told them that. Do you know what that amount was?
They didn't say the amount. They have raised over $100,000 now from the people. The council gave them some money to be able to open back up their library. They're hoping to do that. But York County has a very strong hold over what happens inside the walls of that library.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I agree with you 100%. Was that money only to open the library for the mold remediation, or was that for a long-term?
That was my understanding, is to get that library back open, get the books addressed, and get it back up to where the community would be able to use it again. But basically, York County told the Friends of the Library, if you want it open, figure it out.
Yeah.
Those are my words, but basically, that's what they said.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's what'll happen with Paul Smith and Mason Dixon. It'll be, they'll say, we need this much money a year in order to keep you open. I think that's probably what they'll end up with.
How is that gonna work? Because they own the building.
Glen Rock owns the building.
Well, yeah,
No, I'm
yes,
just talking about Paul Smith.
Yeah, Paul Smith, they own the building, and actually the YMCA owns the land, and Mason Dixon, they own the land and the building. Yeah, so they won't, I mean, if they close them down though, it'll just be, they'll have to do something with the building.
They'll sell the building and the property.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll stay
What a
with the
shame that
library,
would be,
with
yeah.
the library board.
Is there a plan to go to media with all of this?
Thank you.
Well, I was kind of like hedging around that, whether to bring it up or not at this meeting, but I mean, yes, we have multiple sources to go public with this. I have suggested in the past that we go public, and the group consensus was we're trying to wait until we see what their final decision is, but I think what I just read was their final decision.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I would, if it were up to me, I would recommend going public.
I have a question about the building. If the library, the Paul Smith Library owns the building, does it need to lease the building to the York County Library System?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And if so, can we put terms in there, such as hours of operation or other conditions? If they want to use the building for a library here, then they have to meet the conditions of the lease.
Yeah.
Can that be negotiated? I don't know
That,
how
that,
that
it's,
works.
it's a little bit of leverage, it might work.
Yeah.
That's a good question, but in the meetings that we've already attended, your library system, they control it all. How many hours you're gonna be open and who's hired, I mean, everything.
But if we make it a condition of the lease, then we could gain some control of that back, but I don't know if that's a realistic option. And I don't know, like, if we don't enter into a lease, what do they do?
Well, then you just walk away.
They just walk away and not, but then we either have an independent library at that point, and use the building as a library for whatever we can do, but it's not a branch then, because they can't use that building.
Well, if we are an independent library, if Paul Smith and Mason-Dixon decides to become independent, they would lose all of their state and county funding, which would be to the tune of 100, Erica, help me out, about $140,000, I think, for Paul Smith.
Right in that ballpark, but I think that this really needs to go out now, loud and strong to the communities that this is affecting, and let our communities know what's happening.
I agree 100%.
Because I think seeing what the Friends of Glen Rock Library did and raised that money, I think great things could be done between our two libraries.
Stewartstown has a library too.
That's, oh, yeah, the
Oh, that's-
Mason-Dixon.
Is there funds that the library has that if it goes to York County, then York County would take those funds and possibly use them elsewhere besides at the library now?
By law, all the money funnels into York County, and then the money goes to the York County library system, which is Robert's. So, I mean, we're right back to square one.
I think all that money does funnel back there, but each group does have like essentially their fundraising arm.
Oh, yeah, yes,
that
definitely.
does that money that then stays local to that individual branch. Like the Friends of Paul Smith or the Friends of Glen Rock or Pupnagle.
Yeah.
They have their own, and that money stays with that location.
Right, and you can make an endowment to the library, and what they're saying in this letter that I just read is endowment money, like if, for instance, if I gave a large sum of money to the library, it would stay with that library, according to what they're saying.
But they still wouldn't be able to do with it what they want to, right? I mean, if
Well-
it was put out to the public and you had, say you sold sponsorships or whatever, is it possible, you say 140,000 a year, that we would have to, the two libraries would have to get enough sponsors to make up that difference?
Each, yes.
Right, but if they did that, they could be independent and still do what they want to do, right?
They would, but they wouldn't have the software or the support from the larger library. That would all go away.
You're cut off from that.
Yeah, you're cut off from the, like for instance, if you want a book that's in Martin Library in York, you can put in a request at our library, they'll go get that book, they'll bring it back down, and you can check it out
Right.
then. Because our library obviously doesn't have every book. So, but they're, probably the system has most every book you'd want.
And if they go independent, they'll lose that.
They'll lose that, yeah.
Now, if they become a member of the library, does the York Association do away with their board?
Yes, they would no longer have a board, but they would have, well, you were at the meeting, they would no
Yeah.
longer have a board, and, but they would have the Friends of Paul Smith Library, so they would be allowed to raise money, they just
Yeah.
wouldn't be allowed to participate in the decisions, right?
In the past, haven't they run in the negative figures at the end of the year when you look at their, or was it just
York County
an
Library.
exorbitant amount that ended up going to Martin Library that
Who are you
nobody
talking,
could
when you
figure
say
out?
they in the red?
Well, basically, Robert and the board,
Yeah, no, yes.
they've operated pretty much in the red, haven't
Yeah,
they?
like to the tune of $1.3 million.
That's what I was thinking.
So,
Well, and while Glen Rock had to be closed, they still had to pay, I think it was, a friend of mine's on that board, said they still had to pay something like $2,000 every month, even though they could not be open to this association. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is the stop it.
I think just to close out, I mean, I don't, unless somebody has something else important, but just to close out, I think what we need to do is, I'm hoping to to have another meeting that would be a public meeting, that we could all get together, and we would advertise that meeting so that the public would be there, and anyone else, any other citizens that would be concerned.
Would that be where you would invite the news
Well, I think we need one more meeting before we do that.
before we do that?
Unless somebody wants to accidentally drop a dime. course, it's a quarter now, if you can find a payphone. But yeah,
Is there any kind of timelines that they put out with any of this?
we're already late. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
they
think
wanted this to be done, we had a cutoff of like January 1st,
Yeah,
and then they extended it a couple of months, and now they, you know, I have a feeling that with this letter, they'll probably say, make your decision by Friday or something.
so why wait another meeting? We've already, like this, we should have been doing this 6 months ago. I understand it wasn't, they wanted to go a different route, and we should respect that. But
Yeah,
why wait?
well,
What do you gain from waiting?
yeah. Let me give Buck a call and see what his thoughts are.
Shrewsbury's meeting is this Wednesday, so they'll be discussing this at their meeting as well.
Starts at 7, right?
Yes.
To Erica's point, if Shrewsbury's going to have their meeting on Wednesday, do we have a consensus about what New Freedom suggests be done so that they can talk about it at their meeting, so they can either get on board with an idea that we have, and come up with one of their own, and then we'll have to find out about it at our next meeting. But it doesn't mean they'll go along with it, but
Yeah, I tend to agree with Eric, and I think we should go public. I don't think that this council needs to approve that, but I think as a private citizen and as a member of the, I think Denny and Eric and I could all attend this and tell them that's what we want to do. I don't think we need a formal motion from this board to do that. Unless someone disagrees, but.
look, I don't
I
know
think
how.
we need a motion, just go, you know, talk the buck.
Yeah, I agree. We do have an item on here to consider authorizing release of the June 2025 allocation in the amount of $1,000. Now, this is still part of the original $10,000, isn't that correct?
So I have a question. Could we amend this to send it to the Friends of the Paul Smith Library?
That's what we've been doing, I believe.
No, I thought it went to the library. Yeah. So if they, I mean, we could decide tonight to send it to the library, and then by the end of the week, they decide, you know what, they're not gonna talk to us, that $1,000, it's not the end of the world, but that money went straight to York County.
I would entertain a motion to authorize release of the $1,000 to the Friends of the Paul Smith Library.
I'll make that motion.
I have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My vote is aye. So I'll keep you informed as things develop, and hopefully we'll know something more Wednesday.
Did you go forward that email to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I got that message, and then my internet went down, and then we went out for my grandson's birthday, and I didn't get back home to, yes, but definitely I'll get that out to everybody. Okay. Solar energy facilities decommissioning bond requirements. We got the information back from the Planning Commission, and they recommend that municipality adopt. Andrew's made the changes to define the, supply utility. I think that was, and also add underground cabling. So what is the next step for this then, since the Planning Commission is,
It would need to be reviewed by the Borough's Planning Commission, and then following that, council would need to authorize advertisement, because it's a zoning ordinance change, to have a public hearing. The public hearing can occur during the regularly scheduled council meeting, just have to separate a time out on the agenda for it. And then that requires multiple advertisements to go out to the public, and then adoption. So we're still,
So do we need a motion to send it to our planning commission, or do we just?
yeah, I think council needs to look at the highlighted areas that were added based on York County Planning Commission's recommendation for adoption. So obviously the small one is just that grammatical change, getting rid of that extra G in the Roman numerals there for,
Right.
yeah. And then, like you mentioned, adding the underground cabling to above ground and then defining the supply utility. It was not previously defined in the zoning ordinance.
Does this constitute a new ordinance, or do we just amend an ordinance that we already have?
It's amending your zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just, yeah.
the
Are you gonna
section-
start enforcing that?
The sections of your zoning ordinance that would change are listed there. So zoning article 2, which is your terms defined, your supply utility, and then the actual decommissioning requirements.
Does anyone have any questions, or?
Do we need a motion to forward it to the planning commission?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, next is consider the approval of the lease with the South Central York County Senior Center. We entertain a motion.
Making a motion for the approval of the lease for the senior center.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Okay, new business. Consider approval of application for payment number 3 in the amount of $160,096.96 to PSI Pumping Solutions for the Phase 1 aeration upgrades. I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion for the approval of payment number 3 in the amount of $160,000, $99.96.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I had a question, Andrew, and maybe you don't have to go to the engineer. But the insurance for materials stored on site, is that insurance paid by the contractor until they're actually installed, part of the function, and do they provide a certificate of insurance saying stuff's insured, whether it's, in other words, it belongs to the contractor until it's installed in a treatment plant, and if they have it stored on site, or they have it stored at their yard or something, they have to have insurance covered? You know,
Yes.
if it walks off, gets damaged or something?
Yeah, and that was part of their submission package as well.
Okay.
And then they have to update that based on what they're storing.
Right, all right.
Yeah, but they are carrying that. And I'm not sure if you'd like to discuss this now, but would council like to continue to see, I know there's a lot of extra documents here with the payment application, and this is for materials stored on site, materials stored at their warehouse, that they are eligible for payment, partial payment, but I didn't want to truncate anything out that council wanted to see. So if you'd like me just to include, basically the first couple of pages, which is the payment application, and then remove the invoices, the packing slips, the pictures, I can do that. I just wasn't comfortable doing that without council's direction.
All those pictures, is that included in your descriptions? In the description, well, then it's kind of redundant.
Yeah, it's just.
You're just showing that
documentation.
it's there.
Correct, yeah.
Save the paper.
I don't think it's necessary.
No, I mean, if you provide a payment application, if some individual council person wants some particular piece of documentation, they can ask for it, but, yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of extra paper.
I mean, it is all reviewed by
Right.
our KK
Yeah.
before it even comes to council, so I just wanted to, I didn't want to just.
Yeah,
do it, so.
so I think that's sufficient. Okay. I have a motion and a second on the table. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Consider approval of change order number 1, extending the contract time by 81 days and reducing the contract amount by $800 for the Bee Tree Pump Station Orwood Road Site Improvement Project with Clearview Excavation Incorporated. Entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussions on this?
Why the extension?
Weather and materials, being able to obtain materials. I didn't know how to shorten that.
Yeah, I know.
Motion.
No, it's fine. I just didn't think anyone had to repeat it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? My vote is aye. Administrative reports, Mr. Solicitor.
I really did two things this past month since our last meeting. The first was to work with review some of the documents that were discussed at the executive session, so we prepared for that. The other was Manager Schaefer asked me to look at the possibility of acquiring a stormwater pond and a stream area in the vicinity of Ashley Court and 2nd Street intersection. So what we did was we went to and had what we call a lead search done on the property, title search done, to see who owned it and to see what issues might arise from the acquisition of that property. It turns out that the property is owned, it's a stormwater detention pond on the one side of 2nd Street, and on the other side is just basically the parallel to the stream. And both are owned by Altieri Enterprises, which back in the day was the subject of a number of fraud claims and actions by the Attorney General, it turns out. So there is a mortgage against the property that has never been released. And there are judgments from 2008 time frame, maybe as late as 2010, none of which have been revived. Now, what that means is that a judgment is a lien against real estate for 5 years. If you buy the property within the 5 years, then you take it subject to that judgment.
So you'll pay for it.
But if you buy the property after 5 years and the judgment creditor has not revived the judgment, then that judgment doesn't flow through, and the buyer of the property will take that property free of the judgment. So,
Is that the basis of the fraud claim?
I don't know. I just know that there's like, it appears like John H. Myers and Son, Scott Phillips of Phillips Masonry, a number of suppliers and contractors and subcontractors appear to be ones that have filed judgments. It does. I think if we get the property, we take it free of the judgment. We would not take it free of the mortgage. But a mortgage is only a lien against the property. It's not, the judgment, they could come after assets owned by the borough if we were to take it, if there was a judgment, a valid judgment, but there wouldn't be here. There would be a mortgage, but with the mortgage lien, if we were to take the property subject to the mortgage lien, then the mortgage company could come and take the property and they would own it. And if they haven't done it yet, my best guess is that they have no inclination to take a stormwater pond and a stream bed. So the issue that we have to sort out, I guess, is we can take it free of the mortgage if we do it through an eminent domain proceeding. We'll take it free and clear of everybody that way.
That would get rid of the judgments too.
Well, it would make, yeah, or we could take it just as a deed. If we did it that way, we would take it free of the judgments, but not of the mortgage. So I guess I'm kind of looking for direction as to, it would exaggerate it to put it this way, but the basic issue is, do you want to do it right or do you want to do it cheap? You know, I mean, I don't want to be spending money that go through the process of an eminent domain proceeding, which is, what, $4,000 or something like that. But if we could do it for less, but at the same time, you know, you have the mortgages and the judgments and so forth, and if you want just absolute free, clear, you know you got it, it's yours, and there's never going to be a problem in the future, that's how you want to do it. So kind of looking to you folks to kind of give me some direction, and then we will, at the next meeting, I can then present the appropriate documents for you to actually take a vote on, to say, this is what we're going to do.
What's the total value of the judgments?
Oh,
Promise.
let's see. Well, let's just say the first one is $1,128,407.55.
Yeah, eminent domain.
Okay.
All in favor?
We don't vote on it.
For this at all?
That's what I was going to get to, yeah. So we've been working through basically the stream restoration, looking at from Pleasant Avenue to Ashley Court, which we already received funding through the state to evaluate it, come up with a design. We've spoken with the design engineer who believes that we can design the project to meet the upcoming MS4 permit requirements, if all approved by DEP and everything moves forward. So we're trying to stay ahead of that, that requirement to have that project in place to complete that volume reduction. There's a lot of opportunity to restore the floodplain with that property. We've already have about 2,000 linear feet of stream banks that we can. Obtaining this property will extend that north towards Railroad Borough. And I believe it's almost another acre of land. I can't remember the exact frontage or linear footage of stream bank, but then that would help add to the project and increase the allocation for credits under that project and under a new MS4 program. So we're kind of trying to we're being proactive by being ahead of that new permit, which we know is coming, trying to get a project in place that's designed, possibly permitted and ready for construction. So that one property on the east side of 2nd Street would extend that project. The detention basin that's on the opposite side is extremely overgrown and basically not functioning as it should at this point. So that would be another requirement. When you get into those MS4 permits, you need to have a database of all the improvements that are within your jurisdiction, within the borough, and what the condition of those are. Well, this one's basically, I don't want to say failing at this point, but it's not operating as it was designed.
Right.
So we need to do something there, and there's not really anybody to.
But at the start, we're satisfying MS4 requirements, though, that we're going to, lack of a better term, get stuck with sooner or later.
Yeah.
Someplace in the borough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just assume, yeah, no liability.
What was the original intention as far as ownership of the detention pond? So there's no, that I know of, there's no HOA in that, on Ashley Court.
My understanding, I'm not sure if you know, Dennis, that was going to be maintained by the developer, but when the developer went bankrupt and then was sued multiple times, it just
That's what I'm saying, but no developer's gonna stick around like that after the.
Usually it would be an HOA, but there was no HOA.
Like, do we need to look at something else for the future? Not that we have a lot of developable property, but to prevent something like that from happening in the future?
Normally an HOA would take that responsibility, but it's up to that HOA to have responsible people on their board or at their disposal to make sure that those are being done. So at that point, it's more of an enforcement thing.
I know Shrewsbury had a problem and they forced a development to have an HOA. And that might be something
They
that,
could just go away.
Yeah.
There's nothing, just because you create an HOA, you can be there in 5 years. It takes people who want to actually do it.
It's very different.
well, that was part of their problem, that they said they will develop an HOA.
Just to kind of clarify a little bit for that, it's just by coincidence that I just did some research for an HOA on this. And that is that if you have a homeowners association and it has an obligation to perform a certain function like maintain a stormwater pond, and they fail to do that, then the municipality can do that work and then enter a judgment against the HOA. And that judgment becomes a lien, a pro rata lien against every lot that is a member in the HOA. So that motivates lot owners who don't want to lien against their property to make sure that the HOA fulfills its responsibilities by collecting the dues necessary to do the maintenance and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So if you have,
Teeth in that.
yes, and that's the law. That's a state law. So if you have an HOA requirement in your subdivision and land development ordinance, it says that if you're building a stormwater pond, you have to have an HOA to maintain it, then that would provide you with some protection against a situation like this in the future. So then you could require because it would be in your subdivision land development ordinance, you could require your developers to form an HOA to maintain stormwater ponds or any other public improvements that you want them to maintain. And then know that you would have the power, if you have to take over, to lien the properties to enforce the judgment.
We kind of had a situation with the summit up by the cemetery and that hill that comes down to Constitution. And basically, what I guess you called, let the HOA know that needed to be taken care of. It needed to be mowed. It can't just grow wild, and they've done it. They hired a company to do it finally.
Yeah, it took 1 or 2 years to get them on a schedule for that, but I did see that they noted the other day. So
Yeah, they did. They're not happy with it, but
that's difficult.
I know, part of it they didn't do, they missed it, and they're asking them to come back and redo it.
Okay, managers report?
Everybody has a copy of the May 2025 Managers Report as well as an update to the grant application report. I know we mentioned it last month, but I'm happy to report that we got a little bit more blue there this month for funded projects in 2025. One thing just to point out on the Managers Report is we are holding a public on-site meeting with the property owners on Bailey Avenue this coming Thursday at 5 p.m. We did send out a letter to each of the property owners along Bailey Avenue that included the project map and explaining the project a little bit and what we're going to do. So we're meeting with the contractor, the borough's engineer, and borough staff on-site with the property owners that are affected by that project. The contractor does want to begin within the next week or so and following that meeting. So we want to have that opportunity to meet with all the residents and hopefully answer any and all questions.
And you're doing that on site up on Bailey?
Yes. Yep. Other than that, you have the report. If there's any other questions. one, I know we always report on the grant report ones that we received, obviously, which is always happy news. For the second year in a row, we did apply to the AARP Walkability Program. That was not funded in 2024 and was not funded again in 2025. Just Pennsylvania alone received, I think, 3,000 applications, and they have to narrow that down to 10 applications to send into national, and then national narrows it down even further. So it's very competitive, but we'll continue to look for funding opportunities to get that project completed.
And then that Marcellus Shale is what you talked about for Joe Davis, that'll go back in.
Yep, that's going to go right back into the recreation capital fund.
I don't really have anything. Probably go to the library.
Where are we? We got the grant for the generator.
Yep.
Where are we with the plan for that? I know there was this, we were looking at hooking it up to natural gas.
Yep. Yeah, we're working now to get the gas line run from behind the community center over to the generator pad. And then once that's in place, it did require a new line and meter set from Columbia Gas, which is all budgeted for in the grant application.
How hard is that gonna be to run? You're gonna have to dig through the parking lot.
Nope, Public Works has a plan to kind of go around and.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
okay. I thought
Why
maybe
does it require a new meter?
Demand.
Oh, really?
And you can't have two services on one main line from the, I'm sorry, I'm misstating. You can't have two services to one property, because that means that in the event of an emergency, they'd be thinking they're shutting the service off and there would still be an active
Gotcha.
service. So it has to be basically off the main line so that Columbia Gas, when they're on site, if there would be an emergency, can terminate that line independent from the fire station and independent from the community center.
That makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, the SCHEMA report.
I thought Stan was gonna be here.
I think he did say he.
Yeah, he was supposed to be here to give the report. I mean, right now, he's talking about us having those classes, everybody having the classes. He's a little, SCHEMA's really a little perturbed with the way things are going through Glen Rock. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen if Glen Rock doesn't make some improvements. That stream that comes down through Glen Rock, we all know how many floods they've had. The suggestion has always been that that stream goes like this, okay? It's just straight and narrow, the banks. They are proposing and hoping that Glen Rock will widen that so that there's better flow, more water being able to flow through through that. They're looking into the radio situation.
Who's gonna get the permit for the stream?
What's that?
Who's gonna get the permit for that stream widening?
Well, I guess they're gonna have to get it, what, from DEP?
Maybe a DEP and Army Corps.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah, I mean, because if not, it's, like Stan said, it's an accident waiting to happen. Another flood, you're just asking for it. There are no fees generated to the borough at this time. What we would like to do, what I've been asked to do, is get permission from council to be able to utilize our community center as an emergency shelter, because we are one of the few in the area that have a generator. Red Cross would be a willing partner if that happens. And it would not, I don't think it would just be for New Freedom. It would possibly be for other municipalities. But I've been asked to see what council's thoughts are on actually doing that, having them come down, EMA come down, take a look at the building, see it, and then draft an actual proposal between us and them.
There are no showers.
They don't have to be. They know that, and they just want to be able to, if it's snowing and people don't have heat, they can go there. If it's 112 degrees outside and people need to get into the shelter, air conditioning, we have that. I mean, Red Cross, if it was a long period of time, could possibly even set up portable showers somewhere. At least we have the bathrooms, we have, I would think, let me ask this, you would probably be the best one to ask this. If we declare a major emergency in town, does that give us the right to take over Tasteful Occasion as a cooking area to feed and supply?
That I don't know the answer to. I don't know if you can take private property with a declaration of emergency like that.
That's a question.
Force majeure was put into the lease.
I was just about to say the same thing, yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's right.
what is the, I was going to say, what does the lease say about that? Because you might have a right to do it under the lease, but I don't know what the force majeure clause says. Usually, a force majeure clause is not the one that gives you rights to take it over. Usually, it's the one that excuses performance under the lease. So, where it says that, things.
I don't think, if we had an emergency, I don't think Tasteful Occasions would.
Yeah, they would probably.
They have a problem. I mean, Red Cross might reimburse them for meals, or they could even come down through Meals on Wheels during an emergency. That would be a PEMA situation where we would get the emergency management from York involved.
Usually declarations of emergency enable spending to
Correct.
acquire needed resources. But I don't think it authorizes taking of private property for that purpose, but I think it does authorize spending, so you incentivize someone to make their facilities available.
They could reimburse them for that.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine, if there's an actual state of emergency, I can't imagine that they would be operating as a catering.
Yeah, I can't either, and I don't think that they would object. And
No.
Maybe when they come in, we could make an appointment with Rafi and Kim and discuss it with them when they come down, because they want
I
to see
agree.
but nobody has a problem with me having them come down, meet with them, go over the community center with them.
Can we, scheme is on the agenda, can we make a motion to do that, or do we just?
No, that's just for the report, you can't make a motion, but
I think as we should have a meeting.
Yeah.
yeah, you could have a meeting without council approval.
And then make sure it's on the agenda.
Or
Approve
after.
It may be 4 or 6 weeks till we can get together and do
Yeah, it could
this.
be, I'm sure it could be a couple months before they actually approve it, so, yeah.
Yeah, but I would anticipate that Stan's gonna be at one of the meetings. I thought he was gonna be here tonight from the email that I had, but he's going to every other municipality, to discuss, because we've got the stream down here, and that could be a problem. I remember under Agnes, that was all underwater. Those houses on Front Street, it went through one window in the basement, came out the other, went to the next house, and Front Street was completely, so you never know. I mean, they're calling for several major hurricanes this year. We're out of electricity for days.
I agree, yeah, go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Dave, did you want to do the police report, or do you want me to do that, or?
I mean, it is what it is. I just say that there's quite a bit of discussion at the beginning about how successful the new cameras have been in catching people, and they talk quite a bit about that.
I'll just run down through it. There was, Erica, what's Officer Ross's full name?
Is it Castile?
Castile, I think you're right, yes. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to just say Officer Ross, that's easier. He worked on a drug program, QRT team. They had a bust in Glen Rock and Shrewsbury Borough. There were drugs and guns taken off the street. They also found a house, it was basically a drug house in very deplorable condition. That was reported. He also went to, same officer, Officer Ross Castile, went to the 83 North accident with entrapment. He helped get the guy out. There was no paramedic on the ambulance that arrived. Officer Ross is a paramedic helicopter. He's a helicopter paramedic, and the gentleman actually coded on the way to the hospital, and he got him back before they got to the hospital, and the gentleman's life was saved. So he's gotten many commendations from the police department, and they're going to do something formal for him too.
What was that, the Front Street thing?
Yeah. The 83 North accident?
No, the one you're talking about. I thought that was the one on Front Street.
What, you told me?
That was on
arrest on Front Street?
No, the car accident.
Oh, that was today. Yeah, no, this was
it.
the 83 North accident last month. Anyway, they did talk about the cameras. They have it set up so that a code is sent to the officer's phone. They can tag specific vehicles. So like if a stolen car in Baltimore is found up here, it'll hit the car and the tag. They're getting about 3 pings a day on the camera. It notifies the officer within a second or two of actually seeing the car, and it tells them which direction the car is headed. It's pinging on registered sex offenders. They had a 100-mile-an-hour chase on 83. The perpetrator ran out of gas. He had stolen property in the car, and it looks like this was found through the LPR cameras, and he had stolen property in his car. They stopped him, basically. I mean, the crimes would have gone all night. He was breaking into cars, but because of the LPR, they stopped him before he got too far. There was an assault in New Freedom. The camera showed the car in the area. There's a continuation meeting of the Police Commission. If anyone's interested in going, it's on the 17th at 7 o'clock. This is going to be, the new pension company is going to come in and give a report on what's required and just bring everybody up to date. So that'll be another Police Commission meeting. It's a continuation meeting that was announced. And the July meeting will be in New Freedom here for the regularly scheduled police commission meeting. And I think that's all I had.
Can I back up? You mind if I back up? I just would like to say how much of an honor it was as mayor to attend and speak at the flag ceremony
Oh, sure.
down at Freedom Green. Is it on there? Down at Freedom Green this past Saturday, and it was basically to honor Officer Duarte and his service and sacrifice.
Before we go ahead, Kim, does anyone have any questions on the police commission?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where is that meeting on the 17th?
It'll be here. Go ahead.
Okay, so I know you were there, Andy, and it was quite an honor. We had West
Sorry, we
Jordan.
have police
I don't
commission.
have a question, I just wanted to make a note, and say a little thank you. The police were able to track down the person that took out the signage, the VFW sign, the Lion sign, damaged the Borough sign. It might have seemed trivial, they were awesome. They stayed in contact with Kelly Salas, she was like our point of contact, and they're fixing it. So I just appreciate that so much, because I know in the big scheme of things, it wasn't a big deal, but it meant a lot to a lot of people.
Isn't it already up? It's up already, right?
We salvaged the parts to it, but there's still some damage to some things.
Oh, I thought I saw it back up.
It is, yeah, it's up.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just broken and up, but the person left the scene and they tracked them down, they've already.
And the cameras also were instrumental
Were
in that.
instrumental, yes.
I would definitely pass that on to the chief. And
Pass a little information on about those cameras now. I was in York, and I had
do
to
you have
get
something
my,
too, Mike? Just
I had to get my, I knew I had to get my registration done. I had an appointment for the following week, and the next thing I know, the lights are flashing and everything. You know, we don't have stickers on our license plates anymore for car registration. Apparently, every time a car goes past him or he comes up on the car, it automatically checks back and sees if that, all the information on the vehicle, who owns it, if it's registered, if it's been, you know, so you don't think you can wait a couple of days. The nice officer gave me a warning because I told him I did have an appointment. So, but I was surprised. I mean, those things are just amazing as to how they're helping the departments.
Do we pay monthly, annually on these cameras?
we get what?
Do we pay monthly? Annually?
Yeah, there's a
What?
charge. Yeah, I think it was an installation charge, and I think it's a month.
What's the monthly?
I can't remember.
For the cameras.
Yeah,
But it's-
I like a lot of that, being able to catch them. I think it's a little too big brother when they're looking at license plates for registration, but
Yeah.
I don't know where you draw the line, but that's just me.
Well, it's actually not, the camera doesn't ping for registrations, but the officer can tie his camera, even his personal camera in to this system, and it will tell the officer, it'll ping and tell him it's a stolen car. Actually, this last month, they reported that they had a stolen car. They pulled it over. It turns out the owner got the car back, but they forgot to take it out of the system.
Oh,
So
geez.
that's an interesting Big Brother kind of thing right there.
But I was real surprised, you know, I thought, how do they know it's not registered? And it just, as soon as he came up on me, bam, right through the computer, not registered.
Did you want to finish up with that?
Yeah, the flag ceremony, we had represented Sheriff's Department, State Police, West York especially, since Officer Duarte was from West York. His mother was there and his stepfather, she spoke. It was a very heartfelt memorial to him and to all those who have served in the armed forces, EMS, fire, and really put their lives on the line every day, and those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and it's something that we should make sure. I think the VFW was involved. I think they had the honor guard, didn't they, Andy? VFW. But the
Well, the flags were
who
brought in
sponsored
by the VFW, and the York County Prison had the honor guard. At the,
Yeah, I forget who sponsored it. It wasn't the Lions. It was Rotary. The Rotary Club sponsored it, and they did a wonderful job. I just want to thank everybody. Keep an eye out for that next year. Hopefully we'll get some more support and people showing up. It was a nice day.
Engineer reports, warehouse. Questions or comments? Aero engineering. Okay. Water system report. Question?
Well one, is there still a problem with well one? Is he here? Are we good with well one, or are you still working on that?
Still working on it, and we're using it, but we're using it very.
Well, yeah, I saw the gallonage was low. Yeah, normally they're up a little higher.
Wastewater system. RK&K meeting agenda. We're not running into any problems. Anything you want to point out?
No, it's just an update of the topics that were discussed during the May 28th progress meeting. So they're moving forward. You can see the work that's been completed over the last month and the work anticipated.
Much of a difference that you can see if you go down there? Like if you've been there a couple of years ago, does it look a lot different now?
At this point, no. The work that's being done at this point is between the SBR tanks and the rail trail. So it's on the back side of the treatment plant. And that, at this point, they did the rock construction entrance, they relocated the fence, and they poured some footers and foundation for the new building. So it's not a lot at this point, but it will be over the next few months.
Okay, so it's too early to really see
Yeah.
the progress. Okay.
Okay, permit report. Code enforcement.
I have a question
Sure.
for Washington. Washington, the last visit was in April, and there's no next visit. Where's the progress and moving forward in that?
That particular violation is currently at the magistrate's office awaiting the defendant's decision whether he's going to plead guilty or not guilty. And then a hearing will be scheduled from that point. That's for both violations.
So there's no court date yet because he hasn't given his decision.
Correct, yeah, they put, when they schedule it and they send the communication, they put a hold date in, but that date is not finalized until the court receives their determination.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, if he pleads guilty, he just pays a fine?
Yeah.
What happened with the
Fine is,
second?
That's a
How
little,
it started.
yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of, yeah, at this point, it's a different story because we're enforcing, and that's been communicated as well.
Worth going over that?
Move when we can. Yeah,
I'll do this.
the fine is $500 for each violation, so that'd be $1,000 fine.
I see the one down for me is the one here. I'm assuming that they did have gotten citations for the house, and I know you said he is promises, and I would hope that we would look at that because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
He's been promising and promising for a couple of years, and I think this time, if he doesn't come through, I think it's time to
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
something.
and I agree, and as you and I discussed, I think that
The neighborhoods really
the
get more
verification
and more
on
upset.
that was actually speaking with the attorney that's handling all that transfer and confirming the details,
Yeah, I know, it's,
which did seem to take a little bit longer, but yeah.
but yeah, he was doing that 2 years ago, and, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just
I
asking
agree.
to keep
Yep.
on, stay on top of that.
Absolutely.
What's happening on North Second Street?
North Second Street, we provided them letters that, due to the continued violation and due to the fact that they did not remedy the situation by what the magistrate's decision would be, that we will go on the property on June 24th and with a third-party junk removal company and to begin to remove items from the property.
That's exterior.
Exterior only, yeah. I did have communication with the property owner today. They were asking for a complete list of what needed to be removed. And I said no. That's not reasonable. It's anything that's on the outside of the property. That's accumulation of junk and debris that's spread throughout the property.
Is there a size limit on that? What I'm getting at is vehicles?
I included that. I said, you've got junk vehicles, you have junk tractors, you've got junk appliances, there's bags of trash, there's tires, the list goes on and on. So I said, I'm not gonna make you a list, you know, obviously if it's a child's bike or a child's sandbox, no, that's not junk.
Yeah.
One, not 27 stacked upon each other. So they have been working and actually hauling out debris. They've had a truck and a trailer they're hauling out. Today they were taking tires out, so they understand that they have till the 24th, or we're coming in, removing it, and then charging the property whatever the cost to the borough is.
How come over the 24th?
We went back to a date of when it was supposed to end and added some. Got how we came up with it, yeah.
All right, so you just,
Plus, we had to schedule so far out with the junk removal company.
thank you for the progress. I think the town thanks you.
I
Everybody on the rail trail thanks you for the borough.
obviously, the goal of code enforcement is to get in compliance, and finding someone doesn't remove the violation. We've attempted attempted to work with them multiple times, and obviously there were other circumstances with this property, but ultimately, we've got to get it cleaned up, so.
No, I agree. I think that, of course, it may feel long, but especially when you get the court involved, and that adds 3 months and a lot of other factors, but thank you.
Okay, subdivision and land development report.
There's no updates for the monthly report.
Sorry?
There are no updates for the month on that report, same as last month.
Yeah. Okay. Rec.
We don't really have much to report. We do have a meeting tomorrow. Actually, I meant to ask Gina if she was about the line dancing, if she found another one. She had mentioned last month. I'll have to follow up with her on that. Just had the concert the other weekend. The next one is coming up on, is it this Saturday? I think it is. I couldn't remember if it was this Saturday or the following. June 14th is
Shamrocks.
Shamrocks. I was gonna say, I'm probably saying that wrong. And then the last summer concert is August the 16th. That will be Velveeta. They are currently accepting entries for the 4th of July parade. Dina said it's a little bit lower than it is normally at this time of year. Most people do wait till the last minute to find out the weather. It's understandable because it seems like we always pick the hottest day of the year. It is what it is. It's always a great event. It's always a good turnout, and it's a great event to have here. We've had for many years. So if anybody, any other specific questions about anything?
The community, yeah, I do. Understand there was some problem situation with the community garden. I know the choice down there, probably, I wish I would have known where it was gonna be beforehand. Glass and metal in the soil down there. That's, Agnes came through there and that became kind of a dumping area along the creek. I mean, that was all underwater, but there was a lot of glass. And there was, I think you handled a complaint, Andrew, about that, and maybe, you know, we could move that down farther from the main, that tunnel that goes under the railroad tracks. I know there was, like I said, there was metal and all kinds of glass in the soil, that they couldn't utilize it. They weren't about to go in there and try to plant stuff in the plot.
There were a couple items that when they rototilled the area up, I mean, honestly, I think you could probably go in most of your backyards and rototill an area up, and you're going to find metal, rocks, glass, trash. It's not uncommon to find those items. So yeah, I think that's part of just developing a garden. The first year or two, you're rototilling, you're finding items, you're cleaning it out, improving that soil conditions. So
yeah, that, like I said, though, that was a major. You guys weren't even alive when Agnes hit, but that just decimated that whole area. That was all underwater and tore out people's basements.
There used to be a building.
Not on that area. Down farther, that was a sewing factory. There was a sewing factory there that was torn down. The apartments that are there, I think there are 4 apartments, that was a sewing factory also.
So is there any action required, or everything's okay?
They got it cleaned up, or did they get a new spot?
We're working to clean it up. Like I said, I think it's just a matter of you're gonna rototill and
I think there are only, what, 2 lots that have been done?
I think
Is
there
that
were
right?
4 remaining is the last thing that Gina had mentioned to me.
Yeah, there are a couple, and again, it's got to get out there and gain some traction. But I know that project actually received grant funding as well.
Yes, Realtor?
From the Realtors
Yeah.
Association.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Good.
for the community garden and aviary, so.
Oh, cool. Do you have anything on EMS and fire funding?
I don't know where Chris is. Well, he's had a busy day.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on. Yeah, EMS, we really, I'm very well pleased with how this chase truck is working out. We had very few missed calls for the month. We had, I could go down through the, do you want me to tell you how many each community had calls? Or is that
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
too much? Cadoris 5, Glen Rock 2, Hopewell 8, 17 for Loganville, 17 for Maryland, again, 20 for New Freedom, North Hopewell 2, Railroad 1, Stewartstown 11, Shrewsbury Borough 38, Shrewsbury Township, again, the highest was 72, Springfield Township 2, missed calls, we had 2 in Shrewsbury Borough, 11 in Shrewsbury Township, we only had 1 missed call in New Freedom. Railroad, Cadoris, we had none. A couple of those that were missed, though, we had one that had to come down from York Township, and we had another that came down from Jacobus. So it's nice that we have those available, but if that chase truck is out and so is the ammo, it's tough. A lot of times the police, I really, like you said, I compliment them. Those guys all have a lot of EMS experience, and they can do and have done resuscitations and CPR. You wear 40 pounds of gear and try to do that for 20 minutes, you deserve a medal. But everything seems to be going very well with EMS. Fire, again, they're supposed to go to the plant just to make sure everything is as it should be on the plans for the new tower truck. Again, it's probably going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 years until that is built. But it's getting there, slow but sure. A lot of good response from the mail for fire and EMS memberships. No complaints.
Thank you. The next item that we have something on, I think, is the scheduling the time and the date for the public meeting for the rental housing and occupancy ordinance.
Well, I'm going to say I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get a response from council members on this.
We didn't get a response?
No, we
In the
got
middle-
no response.
I know that's not true. 'Cause
I know it is because I looked at it.
I responded to it.
But some people did not. I'm not going to
You just
mention
said no.
names. I'm not going to mention names. I'm not gonna-
Okay.
In the middle.
But I think,
it had
you know,
dates.
when things, you know, like that go out, I think they need to be responded to.
Okay, so then, do we want to come up with a date and a time for the public meeting on the rental housing and occupancy ordinance, or
Can you scrap the whole thing?
one could make a motion to that?
We made a motion to have a meeting. And that's already, we already passed that.
There's no problem with making motions to contradict it either, but that's up to
Can you
the
make a motion, not to make, to undo a motion?
pretty much.
Make a motion that we remove the rental housing occupancy ordinance
There is no ordinance.
Scrap it altogether, that's what I'm saying, to remove it all.
So what you would say then is, in order to be consistent with the agenda, would be that, that no date and time for a public meeting be scheduled.
Make a motion that no date or time be scheduled for a public meeting pertaining to the rental housing and occupancy ordinance. Thank you.
So that means we can still bring it up at
Do
the
I have
council.
a second?
I'll second it.
Now we can have discussion.
That means we can still bring it up at a council meeting. We're just not gonna have a separate public meeting about it.
Well, it'll have to be put on the agenda somehow.
I think what the councilman is saying is that he doesn't want to talk about it ever again.
That's right.
I think what the second was not to ever talk about it again. I think they're scrapping the plan for a rental housing and occupancy ordinance, given the public input that we had at the last meeting.
We had no public input. We had 3 people, and they were people that were notified by a certain individual, and they were all owners of
No, there were 2
rentals.
tenants sitting, actually, there were 4
There were
tenants.
one,
Two
according to our minutes, there was 1 tenant
There were two
that
tenants.
spoke up. That spoke up.
Evan and Christie were tenants, and they talked.
Well, I don't think they were in the minutes.
And they weren't notified by me.
If you wanna put it out on Facebook. But if you want to, that's up to you. But I think you're making a big mistake, because we're the only one in the area that doesn't have some kind of a rental ordinance in at least a minimal fashion.
Shrewsbury Borough has a rental ordinance
Yes,
with inspections.
yes.
What do they charge for
Glen
those?
Rock, I don't know, I don't have it. You'll have to go through your stack of 18 that we had from the surrounding municipalities that Andrew went to the trouble of getting. I just think it's a matter of safety, and you know how I feel, safety, to make sure people that are renting have fire extinguishers, have smoke detectors, and that's it. That's all we basically need. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for something that, penalizes the owners of properties that want to rent them out. We just want to make sure the people they're renting them to are safe. And I don't think that's too much to ask of this council, to make sure that we take care of the safety of our residents.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No. No.
Vote is aye. Correspondence, York County Borough Association meeting invite. I think everybody has this in their packet. So it's a June 26, 2025 meeting, picnic in the park, Rocky Ridge County Park at 6:30 p.m. You could register, it's $20. Public comment on non-agenda items?
Yeah, I got it.
Sorry?
I have one,
Okay.
although I think Jane already scooped me.
Me too.
I'm honored to speak on behalf of my daughter Kelly, who unfortunately could not be here this evening. Kelly served Vice President of the Auxiliary, and she asked me to extend her sincere and heartfelt thanks to the Southern Regional Police Department. Our newly installed VFW sign on Constitution was damaged in a hit-and-run incident. Thanks to the hard work, dedication, and vigilance of the officers, Southern Regional Police Department individual responsible was identified and has agreed to cover the cost of the repairs. We're incredibly grateful for the tireless efforts of the police department, not just in this matter, but in everything do to keep our community safe and supported. The commitment to justice and public service truly makes a difference, and we're proud to have you protecting the police. On behalf of Kelly and the entire VFW family. Thank you.
We have one last thing. I wanted, for the record, unfortunately, the gentleman left, but for the record, I wanted the solicitor to explain what is required by council for reporting on executive sessions.
The law is section 708 of the Sunshine Act. And the relevant section for us is section 708A3, which permits council to discuss in an executive session the purchase, lease, or option to purchase or lease real estate. So that is one of the allowed purposes. Then section 708B goes on to say that the executive session, when one is held, the purpose of the executive session is to be announced at the subsequent public meeting of council. So in this case, we had an executive session at 6:15 p.m. It extended until approximately 6:40 p.m. The public meeting then convened at about 6:40 p.m. and the President of Council announced that we held an executive session to discuss real estate matters, which is consistent with the requirements of section 708A, 3, and 708B of the Sunshine Law. So the other thing to know is this: I'm your solicitor. I monitor these things. So if I see a problem, I will let you know. I'm not going to let the meeting go on and not make sure that if there's a procedural matter that needs to be handled, I will not let it go without being handled properly. I will not let the council go down a path where I can recognize that there could be a concern later. We will address it, and I will do that throughout the meeting with any issues that I see that come up, so that such as an example, the motion you made tonight. I knew what you wanted to accomplish. I was able to find a way to facilitate it, that type of thing. I don't take sides in an argument, but I do make sure that the council is handling what you want to do, the business that you want to handle it in an appropriate and proper manner. So I'm activist in that sense, not in the sense of taking positions on issues, but in the sense of making sure that the council business is handled properly. I will also say this. It has been my experience at New Freedom Borough that that type of involvement by the solicitor has been welcomed. In other words, you are not interested in pushing something through at a council meeting without doing it in the proper way. I have seen that as well through the staff, including the borough manager here. So I have every confidence in my work as your solicitor, and so I'm pleased to be your solicitor, and I appreciate that trust that you've given me in that position.
Thank you for your help.
Yes, thank you. And the only other comment that I have to make is this gavel is well built and did not break.
I don't want to
made out of marble.
Hold on.
I want to thank the council for allowing Kimden and I to go to the Pennsylvania State Borough Association Convention.
Yeah, I didn't really.
It was informative and met some interesting people about some things.
A lot of good information.
Right.
We were there Sunday through Wednesday.
It's always good to expand your horizons and see what other people are doing. So, I would entertain a motion.
I have one
sorry.
question. I noticed your shirt. Do you have an opening date?
We don't yet.
No?
No.
I can't read your shirt.
Oh, it's Burt Baking Company.
Oh, okay.
I'm just here. I just want to be involved in different levels of the community. So that's all.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Sorry you took everything you took tonight, but I understand what that's like.
We've got broad shoulders.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. I'm curious what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're excited.
Great. Anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
second.
I second.
Are you good, Eric?
The concert? First one.
Yeah, that, yeah. Thank you.